There's a 3-second gap between the moment you feel the craving and the moment your hand reaches for the vape. In that gap lives the difference between being a slave to impulse and being truly free. The ancient Stoics knew something about this gap that nicotine companies desperately don't want you to discover. Today I'm showing you 3 checks that take less than 10 seconds combined, but have the power to break the chain that's been wrapped around your mind. And I need you to stay until the end, because the 3rd check is the one that changes everything. The one that finally makes the urge lose its grip. You know that feeling. You're sitting there, working, scrolling, just existing, and suddenly it hits. That subtle pull. It's not even a conscious thought at first. It's like your body remembers before your mind does. Your hand moves toward your pocket almost automatically. There's this rising tension in your chest, a weird emptiness that seems to demand filling. And you tell yourself it's just one hit, just to take the edge off, just to feel normal again. Then you do it. That immediate relief washes over you, 2 seconds of peace. But 30 seconds later, something else creeps in. A quiet guilt, a frustration with yourself. The knowledge that you just reinforced the very pattern you swore you'd break. And the worst part? You're not even sure when you decided to do it. It just happened. Like you weren't even driving your own mind. If this sounds familiar, you're not broken. You're human. And you're caught in one of the oldest psychological loops known to our species. The impulse relief regret cycle. But here's what most people don't understand. This isn't about willpower, it's about awareness. And before we go deeper, if you're serious about using ancient wisdom to solve modern problems, hit that subscribe button. This channel exists to give you practical Stoic tools for real-life challenges. No fluff, no theory you can't use. Just direct, applicable philosophy that actually works. Every week we break down one specific struggle using frameworks that have survived 2,000 years because they work. You're building a library of mental tools here. Don't miss the next one. Now here's where most advice gets it wrong. Everyone tells you to resist, to fight the urge, to be stronger. But that's like trying to win a war by charging directly into the enemy's strongest position. The Stoics understood something different. They understood that the battle isn't with the craving itself. The battle is with your attention, where you place your focus in that 3-second gap. Because here's the truth that's going to sound backward at first. Every time you white-knuckle your way through a craving, you're actually making it stronger. You're teaching your brain that this thing has immense power over you. So much power that it requires all your strength to resist. But what if there was a different way? What if instead of fighting, you examined? What if those 3 seconds became a space of curiosity rather than combat? Stay with me because this is about to shift how you see the entire problem. Epictetus, one of the most practical Stoic philosophers, once said something that applies perfectly here. We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. Read that again slowly. You cannot choose whether the craving appears. That impulse rising in your chest, that pull toward the vape, that's not under your control. It's a neurological pattern, a habit loop your brain has learned. But here's what is under your control. The 3 seconds between the urge and the action. That gap is yours. That's your territory. That's where your freedom lives. And the 3 checks I'm about to give you are designed to expand that gap, to give you space where right now you feel like you have none. Picture this. You're in your car, sitting in traffic. Stress from work is still buzzing in your head. Without thinking, your hand goes to the vape. But this time, something's different. This time, you pause, just for 3 seconds. You run the first check. Suddenly, instead of being swept away by the wave, you're standing on the shore watching it. The urge is still there, but you're not inside it anymore. You're observing it. Or imagine this. You're on your lunch break, and everyone around you is vaping. The social trigger hits hard, but instead of automatically joining in, you run the second check. You ask yourself one specific question, and in that moment, you see something you've never seen before. You see what you're really reaching for, and it's not nicotine. Or picture yourself after an argument with someone you care about. Emotions are high. The vape feels like the only thing that will calm you down, but you apply the third check, and instead of numbing, you choose something else. Something that actually builds you instead of borrowing from your future self. These aren't fantasies. This is what happens when you apply the framework you're about to learn. So why does this work when everything else fails? Because you're not fighting biology with willpower. You're interrupting automation with awareness. Every habit lives in a neurological loop. Trigger, routine, reward. The trigger is the stress, the boredom, the social cue. The routine is reaching for the vape. The reward is the relief, the nicotine hit, the brief escape. And here's the critical part. Every single time you complete that loop without interruption, you strengthen it. The pathway in your brain becomes more automatic, more unconscious, more powerful. It's like water carving a groove in stone. Each repetition deepens the channel. But here's the good news. You don't need to fill in the groove. You just need to redirect the water. And that redirection happens in the pause. When you interrupt the automation between trigger and routine, even for 3 seconds, you're doing something neurologically powerful. You're creating space. You're weakening the association. You're reminding your brain that this isn't inevitable. This is a choice, and choice is where freedom begins. The Stoics understood that the person who can pause between stimulus and response is the person who cannot be controlled by external forces, not by circumstances, not by other people, and definitely not by a small electronic device. Throughout history, the people who've demonstrated the most impressive self-control weren't superhuman. They were practitioners of the pause. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, wrote in his private journals about the importance of examining his impulses before acting on them. He had access to every pleasure imaginable, yet he chose restraint not through deprivation, but through examination. Viktor Frankl, surviving the worst conditions humans have ever created in concentration camps, discovered that between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response. That space he's talking about, that's the same 3-second gap we're discussing right now. These weren't people with more willpower than you. They were people who learned to use the gap, and that's exactly what you're about to learn to do. Now let's get into the actual framework, the 3 Stoic checks that transform those 3 seconds from a moment of weakness into a moment of power. And I need you to pay close attention here because each check builds on the last, and they work together as a system. Miss one, and the whole thing is less effective. But use all 3, and you'll feel the shift immediately. Check number 1. Is this mine to control? This is the Stoic practice of distinguishing between what's up to you and what's not up to you. And it's the most misunderstood concept in all of Stoicism, which is why we need to go deep here. When the craving hits, your first instinct is to try to make it go away. You want to control the urge itself. You want to stop feeling it. But here's the problem. The craving arising is not under your control. Your nervous system, responding to triggers and learned patterns, generates that impulse automatically. You can't stop it from appearing any more than you can stop your stomach from growling when you're hungry. Trying to control it is like trying to control the weather by thinking hard about sunshine. It's a category error. It puts you at war with something you can't win against. But here's what is under your control: your response to the craving, the action you take or don't take. Whether you pick up the vape or not, that's yours. That's your domain. So check 1 is about correctly identifying where your power actually lives. When you feel the urge, instead of panicking or fighting, you say internally, "The craving is not mine to control. It appeared. That's fine. But what I do next is completely mine." This might sound like a subtle distinction, but it changes everything. Because now you're not trying to fight an unwinnable battle against the feeling. You're simply choosing your next action. And choosing is much easier than fighting. Think about it this way. Imagine someone insults you. You can't control whether you feel anger. That's automatic. Your nervous system responds. But you absolutely can control whether you yell back or pause and respond thoughtfully. Same principle. The feeling isn't the problem. The automatic reaction is. So when that urge hits, run check 1. Acknowledge it. There's the craving. It appeared. That's not under my control. Then immediately follow with, but whether I reach for the vape right now, that's completely under my control. You've just separated yourself from the impulse. You're no longer fused with it. You're observing it. And in that observation, you've created the first second of space. Now we move immediately to check 2. And this is where it gets interesting because this check reveals something you've been avoiding. Check 2 is this. What am I actually trying to escape right now? This is the Stoic practice of examining the underlying cause. Because here's what the vape companies will never tell you. You're not actually craving nicotine most of the time. You're craving escape from discomfort. And until you identify what specific discomfort you're trying to escape, you're shadowboxing. You're fighting an invisible enemy. So in that second gap, after you've acknowledged the craving exists but before you act, you ask this question with genuine curiosity. What am I running from right this second? Is it boredom? That restless feeling of not being stimulated? Is it anxiety? That buzzing in your chest about something you're worried about? Is it awkwardness? That social discomfort of not knowing what to do with your hands or how to fit in? Is it emptiness? That deeper sense that something's missing and you don't know what? Is it anger? Frustration you haven't processed? Is it sadness? Grief you've been postponing? Here's why this matters so much. When you identify the real thing, the vape loses its magic. Because you realize, often for the first time, that the vape doesn't actually solve the problem. It doesn't cure boredom. It just delays it. It doesn't eliminate anxiety. It just numbs it for 90 seconds. It doesn't fill emptiness. It just covers it with a cloud. The vape is a very expensive, very harmful pause button. And once you see that clearly, its power diminishes. Let me give you a concrete example. You're at work. Deadline pressure. Your chest is tight. The urge hits. You apply check 2. What am I trying to escape? The answer comes. I'm trying to escape the discomfort of this pressure and my fear that I won't finish in time. Now you see it clearly, and you realize hitting the vape doesn't change the deadline. It doesn't make you work faster. It doesn't reduce the actual problem. It just gives you 90 seconds where you don't have to feel the discomfort. But the discomfort is information. It's telling you something. Maybe you need to break the project into smaller parts. Maybe you need to ask for help. Maybe you need to accept that you'll do your best and that's enough. The discomfort is trying to guide you toward a real solution. The vape just turns off the guidance system. And here's the deeper Stoic insight. Every time you escape discomfort artificially, you train yourself that discomfort is intolerable. You make yourself weaker. But every time you stay present with discomfort and move through it, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than you thought. You build real confidence, the kind that doesn't come from vapor. So check 2 is about radical honesty. What am I avoiding? And once you name it, you've taken its power. You've turned on the lights, and things are never as scary in the light. Now we're 2 seconds in. You've acknowledged the craving isn't under your control, but your response is. You've identified what you're actually trying to escape. And now comes the third check, the one that seals everything. Check 3. Who do I become if I pause? This is the Stoic practice of character building through small choices. And it's the most powerful of the 3 because it shifts you from defense to offense. You're no longer just trying not to vape. You're trying to become someone. Here's how it works. In that 3rd second, you ask yourself this. If I choose not to pick up the vape right now, what does that make me? And you answer with identity language. Not, I'll be someone who didn't vape. That's weak. That's still defining yourself by the thing. Instead, I become someone who can sit with discomfort without needing an escape. I become someone who keeps promises to themselves. I become someone who isn't controlled by a device. I become someone who faces reality directly. Do you feel the difference? One is about subtraction. The other is about addition. One is about what you're losing. The other is about what you're gaining. And your brain responds very differently to those 2 framings. When you frame it as becoming someone, you tap into something deeper than willpower. You tap into identity. And identity is the strongest motivator humans have. We will do almost anything to act consistently with who we believe we are. So if you see yourself as someone who is controlled by cravings, you'll act that way. But if you see yourself as someone who examines cravings and chooses their response, you'll act that way instead. The 3rd check builds that identity, one pause at a time. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to believe it fully at first. You just have to ask the question, who do I become if I pause? Your brain will start answering. And with each pause, the answer becomes more true. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in real time. The craving hits. 3 seconds. Check 1. Is this mine to control? The urge isn't. My next action is. Check 2. What am I avoiding? I'm avoiding the boredom of this moment. Check 3. Who do I become if I pause? I become someone who can be bored without needing rescue. 3 seconds. 3 questions. And suddenly, you're not in a fight. You're in an observation. You're not white-knuckling. You're choosing. And that vape? It's just a small object on the table. Not a master, not a solution, just a thing. And you're a person who doesn't need it right now. Now, let's go even deeper into why these 3 checks work on a neurological level. Because understanding the mechanism makes you trust the process. Your brain is designed to automate behaviors that get repeated. It's an efficiency system. Every time you go from trigger to vape without interruption, your basal ganglia, the part of your brain responsible for habits, encodes that sequence more deeply. It becomes more automatic, less conscious, more powerful. But here's what neuroscience has discovered. Automation can be interrupted by conscious attention. When you bring awareness to the moment between trigger and action, you activate your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive function and decision-making. This is the part that can override automation. And here's the critical insight. You don't need to override it forever. You just need to interrupt it once. Right now. This moment. Not tomorrow's cravings. Not next week's triggers. Just this one. And when you interrupt it once with awareness, you've weakened the automatic pathway just slightly. Do it again, you weaken it more. Do it 50 times, and you've created a new pathway. The pathway of pause, examine, choose. This is called neuroplasticity, your brain rewiring itself based on repeated patterns. And the Stoics understood this principle 2,000 years before we had brain scans. They called it character formation through practice. Same thing, different language. So every time you apply these 3 checks, you're not just avoiding one vape hit. You're literally rebuilding your brain. You're creating new neural pathways. You're becoming a different person at the neurological level. And that's not metaphor. That's biology. Let's also address something important. What if you run the 3 checks and you still pick up the vape? Does that mean you failed? Does that mean the system doesn't work? Absolutely not. And this is where most people quit. They expect perfection. They expect that once they know the right thing to do, they'll always do it. But that's not how behavior change works. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote that he had to remind himself of the same principles every single morning because he kept forgetting them during the day. Even the emperor struggled. So here's the truth. If you run the 3 checks and you still vape, you've already won something. You've interrupted the automation. You've brought consciousness to an unconscious pattern. You've planted a seed of awareness, and that seed will grow. Maybe not today, but it's there. Next time, the pause might be a little longer. The awareness might be a little clearer. The choice might be different. Progress isn't linear, it's cumulative. Every pause counts. Every check matters. Even the ones that don't immediately stop you from vaping, because you're training a skill, the skill of the gap. And like any skill, it gets stronger with practice. So release the expectation of perfection. Replace it with the commitment to practice. That's the Stoic way. Now let's talk about the specific moments when these checks are most powerful, because certain triggers are harder than others. The first major trigger is social situations. You're around other people who are vaping. The pull is intense because it's not just chemical, it's tribal. We're wired to do what the group does. This is when check 3 becomes your anchor. Who do I become if I pause? You become someone who doesn't need external validation to feel comfortable. You become someone who can stand in their own space without conforming. This is massive, because the confidence you build here extends far beyond vaping. You're building the ability to be yourself in any situation. The second major trigger is stress. Something goes wrong. Pressure mounts. The vape feels like the only relief valve. This is when check 2 is critical. What am I avoiding? You're avoiding the feeling of stress, but stress is just energy. It's your body preparing you to handle something. When you vape it away, you're telling your body, you can't handle this. But when you pause and stay with it, even for just 3 seconds longer than usual, you're telling your body, I can handle this. And your body believes what you show it, not what you tell it. The third major trigger is boredom. Nothing's happening. You're understimulated. The vape gives you something to do. This is when check 1 saves you. Is this mine to control? The boredom isn't. It's just a state. But what you do with your hands, your attention, your next 5 minutes, that's completely yours. Boredom is just space, and space is opportunity. The vape fills the space with nothing, but you could fill it with a text to a friend, a walk outside, a stretch, a deep breath, or even just sitting with the boredom and realizing it won't kill you. Here's another layer that's crucial. These 3 checks aren't just for vaping, they're for any impulse you want to examine. Junk food, scrolling, shopping, lashing out in anger, anything where there's a gap between trigger and action. The framework is universal because it's based on human psychology, not on any specific substance or behavior. So as you practice this with vaping, you're actually building a meta skill. The skill of self-governance. The Romans called it temperantia, the ability to moderate yourself. And once you have this skill, you carry it everywhere. It becomes part of who you are. Think about how powerful that is. You're not just quitting vaping. You're becoming the kind of person who has mastery over their impulses. That's a completely different level of transformation. Let me also give you a warning about what will try to sabotage this process, because your brain will resist. The resistance will come in the form of thoughts like these. It's just 1 hit. It doesn't matter. I've already messed up today, might as well continue. I'll start tomorrow. Everyone else is doing it. I deserve this after the day I've had. These thoughts aren't accidents. They're your automated pattern trying to survive, because every pattern once established fights to maintain itself. That's just how neurology works. So when these thoughts appear, and they will, don't fight them either. Just recognize them for what they are. Your habit loop trying to complete itself, and then apply the 3 checks anyway. You don't have to believe you can resist. You don't have to feel strong. You just have to run the checks. 3 seconds, 3 questions. That's it. The thoughts can be there. The doubts can be there. Run the checks anyway. Feelings aren't facts. Thoughts aren't commands. They're just neurological weather. And you don't cancel your plans because of weather. You just bring an umbrella. Let's go deeper into the transformation that happens when you consistently apply this framework. At first, the 3 checks feel mechanical. You're forcing yourself to remember them. You're consciously asking the questions. It takes effort, but somewhere around the 50th time, something shifts. The pause starts to happen automatically. You feel the craving, and before your hand even moves, there's a gap, a space, a moment where you naturally examine what's happening. This is when you know the new pathway is forming. The old automation is being replaced by a new one, an automation of awareness. And this is the goal. Not to constantly fight, but to naturally pause. When you reach this stage, vaping doesn't have power over you anymore. Not because you're using massive willpower, but because you've rewired the response. The craving appears, you examine it, you choose. It's smooth, it's calm, it's effortless. This is what the Stoics called apatheia. Not the absence of feelings, but the absence of being controlled by feelings. You feel the urge. It's there, but you're not its servant. You're its observer. And observers are free. There's also a beautiful side effect that happens when you practice this framework. You start seeing other areas of your life where you're on autopilot, where you're reacting instead of responding, and you start applying the 3 checks there too. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Check 1. Is my anger under my control? No, but my response is, check 2. What am I avoiding? I'm avoiding the discomfort of feeling disrespected. Check 3. Who do I become if I pause instead of honking and cursing? I become someone who doesn't let strangers ruin my mood. 3 seconds. And suddenly, you're not the person who rages in traffic. Your partner says something that triggers you. Check 1. Is this mine to control? The feeling of hurt? No. My next words? Yes. Check 2. What am I avoiding? I'm avoiding the vulnerability of saying I'm hurt. Check 3. Who do I become if I pause and speak from a calm place? I become someone who can be honest without being reactive. 3 seconds. And suddenly you're not the person who escalates every conflict. Do you see what's happening? The vape was just the training ground. You're building a life skill. You're becoming someone who lives by choice instead of by reaction. And that version of you is unstoppable. Now let's address the identity shift that happens at the deepest level, because this is what makes the change permanent. Right now, if someone asks you about vaping, you might say, I'm trying to quit. That language reveals everything. It reveals that you still see yourself as a vapor who's attempting something difficult. But there's a different way to hold your identity. I'm someone who examines my impulses before acting on them. That's not about vaping. That's about who you are. And when your identity shifts from, I'm a person who vapes but wants to stop, to, I'm a person who chooses their responses, the behavior follows automatically. Because humans are incredibly consistent with their self-image. We do what matches who we think we are. So the 3 checks, done repeatedly, don't just change your behavior, they change your self-concept. And that's where permanent transformation lives, not in willpower, in identity. Here's one more crucial element: community and accountability. The Stoics didn't practice in isolation. They wrote letters to each other. They discussed philosophy. They reminded each other of the principles. And you need the same thing. Not someone to shame you when you vape, but someone to remind you of the 3 checks when you forget. Someone to celebrate when you pause instead of react. This is why the comment section of this video matters. When you write down which of the 3 checks resonated most with you, you're not just helping me. You're making a micro-commitment publicly. And public commitments have staying power. They activate a different part of your motivation. So when you get to the end of this video and I ask you to comment, that's not busy work. That's psychology. That's you building your new identity in public. That's you joining a community of people who are choosing awareness over automation. Let me give you one final reframe that ties everything together. The 3 checks aren't a cage. They're not rules designed to make your life harder. They're liberation tools. Right now, you're in a cage. The cage of stimulus response. Trigger vape. Automatic. Unconscious. Controlled. The 3 checks are the key to that cage. They give you space, choice, freedom. And freedom doesn't mean doing whatever you want whenever you want. That's just being a slave to impulse. Freedom means being able to choose differently than your conditioning. That's real power. That's what the Stoics dedicated their entire philosophy to achieving. And you're learning to do it with something as specific and practical as vaping. But remember, the vape is just the metaphor. You're learning to be free. So here's what you do starting right now. Not tomorrow, not Monday. Right now. The next time the craving hits, and it will, you're going to feel it rise. And in that moment, you're going to remember 3 questions. Check 1. Is this mine to control? Separate the feeling from the action. Check 2. What am I avoiding? Name the real discomfort. Check 3. Who do I become if I pause? Build your identity. 3 seconds. 3 questions. That's all. You're not committing to never vaping again. That's too big, too overwhelming. You're just committing to the next 3 seconds, and then the 3 seconds after that. One pause at a time, one check at a time, one choice at a time. This is how empires are built. This is how character is forged. This is how you become untouchable. Not because nothing affects you, but because you choose how you respond to everything. You're not fighting the vape anymore. You're building a version of yourself that doesn't need it. And that version is already inside you, waiting. These 3 checks are just the invitation for that person to step forward. So, step forward. 3 seconds at a time. You're ready for this. You've always been ready. You just needed the framework. Now you have it. If this video gave you something valuable, hit that like button. It tells me to make more content like this. Subscribe so you don't miss the next framework. And here's the important part. Comment below and tell me which of the 3 checks hit you hardest. Was it check 1, realizing what's actually under your control? Check 2, identifying what you're avoiding? Or check 3, building your identity through the pause? Write it down, make it real, and I'll see you in the next one.